Hello, fellow watchers and enjoyers. It's I, Piggy, and I'm joined by Ash. Here to bring you yet
Hello.
another edition of the Watching Walford podcast. It's episode 128. Wow, they're really old in this time. Even the Queen can write them a letter. Today's episodes are going to cover the biggest storylines and takeaways from week 24. So I got my notes wrong last week. Sue me. Of 2025. All the episodes from the 10th to the 6th, all the way to the 13th to the 6th. Or if you watch from the iPlayer, the 9th to the 6th, all the way to the 12th to the 6th. So it's a bit weird because the World Cup qualifiers are on this year. And also, I should add, it's weird that it's going to be in America because America doesn't really get football. They have an American football, but not normal football. But there's enough of that.
Yeah, the MLS never really hasn't really taken off.
Yeah, I just like on that, like it's weird, and if you're in the Hollyoaks universe, the World Cup has already taken place, so we gotta ask Hollyoaks who won. But neither I say that I digress. How have I been? Very quickly, just before you may notice something new. I was scribbling there. I've gotten some new ink on me. There we go. Kind of. It's hard to do this one. And then, there we go. And there we go. Look at that. Just very quickly, because I want to tell this story before I forgot it. We went for dinner yesterday, and I'm obviously wearing the gloves to protect my hand so they don't get infected on the way home. And we went to this restaurant, Ash, right? And they sat us down. But there was an old man sitting beside me, and I nearly sat on him when I was sitting down. So, yeah.
How?
Because I obviously was standing up and I was trying to coordinate myself into the table, but I ended up like moving over this way, so I nearly sat on his lap, and like
Nice.
you just see him going, just like doing that, and then on the way up I grabbed both of the tables and lifted myself up, and I've never seen an old man look at me like, "You okay, son?" Like he's doing the full on Sabu, like he's doing that, like looking up at me, but yeah, that's what I did. Yeah, and tattoos are painful to an extent. I can't really describe the pain, but all I can say it starts off like someone is digging a really sharp pen into you and just outlining it, and then the colors don't really hurt. It's like getting shaved. It's just shaving, really. Um, but I guess what are the topics? I spent 2 minutes rambling. We've the introduction. We've Patrick and Yolande. This is the introduction, by the way. George and Elaine, and then Kat and Alfie. And after that, would you believe it? We have the awards. And then after the awards, would you believe it? We have the after show. Or the after show can be anything. It can be us talking 20 minutes about conspiracy theories and nonsense, or it can be us saying plans for the future of the channel. And also, I forgot to say, Happy Father's Day. It's Father's Day when this comes out. And by the way, your father is dead, lads. Just to let you know.
Good, mate.
It wasn't
He is.
directed at you necessarily, but fair enough.
Obviously, I don't really have to do Father's Day at this point.
Ah, you do. Just do it to your brothers. Just send them a dad's card. No context, no nothing.
Might send some mixed signals.
You are my new dad. How are you? It might be awkward at Christmas, on Christmas Day dinner, but you'd figure that out. So I guess without further ado, I guess we start off with Patrick and Yolande. Now, where do Patrick and Yolande begin? Well, in Monday's episode, or Tuesday, I'm just going to call out the week it came out on the iPlayer. On Monday's episode, we see Patrick, like, go to Yolande, oh, you should get a massage, wink, wink. Yolanda's like, no, how about you? No, just leave me alone, which really upsets Yolanda because she is still a bit traumatized from her experience with Pastor Clayton, assaulted Yolande, and this was obviously a horrific for Yolande. Sorry. So with Patrick, like just wanting to get his just wants a bit of love. Yolande doesn't really reciprocate, and then he goes to the Queen Vic. He kind of just has a viewpoint and just deals with it that way. And the Yolande's like, "I've gone home," and then she's just in the laundry, folding clothes, and then Denise comes in and says, like, "You all right, Yolande?" And Yolande's like, Yeah, yeah, I am, yeah. And then she's like, Patrick didn't really mean it, you know what I mean? Patrick didn't mean it, lad. And she's like, yeah, I know. But she's still a bit upset. They go to the cafe, they have a little, she has a chat with Patrick does Denise. And then Denise is like, yeah, she's just talking out. And then Elaine just complains to Patrick, and then Patrick's like, right, I'm going to my room. See ya. Doesn't have his din
Yeah,
dins.
it's I mean, it's a weird balance thing because Yolande is trying to initiate a lot of these acts. She is trying to initiate a lot of this like affection. But Patrick, knowing what she's been through, doesn't want to put her in a situation where she could even like feel as bad as she had when her assault took place. But instead of actually being direct and talking about it, Patrick is then kind of, and this is where Yolande gets upset with, has kind of, it feels, to her, it feels like he's made the executive decision of no. Even though you are willing and consented to this, you have decided for me, which she then will believe what Pastor Clayton said and did. That took away her control. But by her aiming to initiate some intimacy, that is her like putting herself forward and believing I'm comfortable with you. I want to do this. But with in her eyes, with Patrick kind of opting against it, makes her feel like she doesn't have a choice. Even if she's trying, she's not getting the outcome she would want out of it. It's an interesting thing because, and it does kind of escalate as she does basically say you're just like Clayton, which obviously Patrick can feel a little bit miffed because he's been trying to be as respectful and kind of genuine and honest about like what he wants. But in the same way, this distance that he's put in between them has made them both feel neglected in a different way. So it's a really interesting one.
Yeah, sorry, got distracted there. It's a really interesting one, in a sense, because I misunderstood this entire dynamic. So I thought it was Patrick wanting to be intimate, and Yolande just being like, "No, leave me alone." But it was the other way around. I was completely wrong. I misread all the signals. Um, and yeah, it's nice to see Yolande like actually get a storyline again. Nice to see that. And is there anything major that happens, or do they just, or am I missing something?
Um, no, it's just a bit of kind of back and forth where they then have a proper conversation about it. Like, look, at the end of the day, like, basically, if I'm initiating this with you, this is me wanting to do it on my own accord. I don't like, this is, I shouldn't have compared you to Clayton. I shouldn't have like taken this approach. I do apologize, but also like, we've not been connecting. We've not been together and we're not really feeling loved. So it's it's a good little balance. And I suppose this is a very like Chris Clenshaw approach to this sort of thing as well, as he does take the general stance of here are now three couples, all of whom have different problems, but we're going to share them out over like the Thursday episode as such. So it's it's a good way, and in the end, they both, they agree that maybe they've been addressing it wrong. Now that they've had a discussion about it, now they're gonna finally like work past it. And in the end, I believe Patrick kind of proposes to Yolande, so maybe they're gonna get married again.
Woo, woo, yeah. Moving on.
Bit too much sarcasm on that, accidental sarcasm.
I guess now it's time for the next couple. Oh, we're flying through this. Um, George and Elaine. Sorry. Um, George and Elaine. Um, what have they been doing? Well, George just keeps sticking his finger in the pie, doesn't he? He just honey traps himself every opportunity he gets, as he's enjoying his day, and then runs in? The little runt himself, Junior, runs in, uh, uh, like the Hobbits or Gandalf delivering a message. Goes, I've received a message, your lord. And then they're like, what do you mean, Junior? He talked to my mum and nearly shagged her. Oh, thank you, lord. Um, thank you, little fella. And then that annoys Elaine. And then Elaine's like, George, why have you been doing this, George? She's like,
Is it was interesting because they had teased it, right? They teased it a bit earlier in the year where Gina and George sat down like, "Oh, hey, what's this? You know, why is this a thing?" So suddenly now this truth has been exposed, and Junior, still very one note once again, not really the most developed character either. Mostly is just playing foil to George to remind him that the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. So George at Christmas was with Sabrina, Junior's mum. She tried to kiss him. He kind of he didn't lean in. He didn't go in for the kiss. But this is enough to set Elaine off, as once again it George and Elaine have had all these conversations. No more lies. We'll tell each other everything. Don't you worry. We will. I swear this time it will be different. And then she hears this, immediately kind of lashes out, is very angry. And what does George do in a crisis? Does he A, speak to Elaine, or does he B, speak to his ex again? He speaks to his ex, he speaks to Cindy, and it is a little insufferable at this point.
I will, I will say, right, and I know people are gonna correct me. No, Piggy, you're fucking wrong. But in my canon, Sabrina is Sabrina the Teenage Witch from like 1999, that TV show. In my canon, that's who she is. If Ash can have his canon where Pat and Big Mo had a bunk up, my canon is that George bunked up with Sabrina the witch. Um. So yeah, that's what I want to say. But yeah, he does talk to his ex Cindy, and this is funny in my eyes because hold on, they talk. Hold on. No, excuse me. They talk, and Elaine's trying to ring George, and then Elaine's walking down the street with people like me, and she just looks up, and then George is like, "It's okay, cry on my shoulder, cry on." I don't know what this emotion is. Cry on my shoulder. Go on. And then Elaine's like, "Okay, George, you want to play that game? I'll play that game." And go, and then calls her own friend, Drew Peacock. Well, first off, she says she has a day. When she talks to Stephen, who is Irish, in the Albert, and then yeah, so Drew Peacock comes in and it's like, "You all right, Elaine?" "Yeah, I am." And then he tells her, "Don't be a side character in your own show," basically. And she's like, "Fair enough then."
A pretty good stance. I do appreciate it because the weird thing with Elaine is Elaine has generally been in a backseat in her own relationship, where at any points where there's been actual strife between George and Elaine, George has always gone to his ex, whereas he would never go to Elaine, which that's not a balanced dynamic, especially if you kind of plead for trust and respect and just openness between a couple. I mean, anybody who's experienced it in real life, where if you have a problem with if you have a problem with your partner and your partner just goes to their best mate, and then it's their best mate telling you the problem instead of the partner communicating with you, it's pretty frustrating. It's just like, can I just speak it? Can I just have a direct conversation, please? So obviously Elaine's frustrated, and Drew Peacock gives previously he would explain, look. Also, another great appearance from them. I am very happy to see it happen. Just gives them, look, last time I told you to keep it out. Why are you kicking him out of bed? If he pleads and he wants to cherish you and he will actually do it, sure. But if he's doing it again, and I think he uses a line of you should be the starring act instead of a revolving door. You should be treated like like the starring act you are. But it's kind of I appreciate it. Obviously, it then does lead to Elaine, spending the night with this Irishman who, has a treats her better than George has in a long time. And
That's me.
they spend the night together. It's very nice, but Elaine immediately hit with the realization afterwards. It's a weird thing where people seem to forget that, and this isn't me defending cheating, but just in terms of how human nature works, cheating's easier than fixing the problems. It's a lot easier to make a mistake and do something you will regret instead of actually going, look, here's the problem, here's why. And people aren't inherently. It takes a lot of it takes a lot of courage to just have an open and honest dialogue about what's went wrong and why it's happened.
See, what's funnier is, right, so Elaine, obviously, riddled with this guilt, opens up to George, and then George's like, what the fuck? Why'd you do that? And Elaine's like, yeah, but you go to your ex every time someone punches you, you little bitch. And then George's like, okay. I'm like, yeah, I agree with Elaine. It's wrong, yes, but I agree with Elaine. If you can go to your exes, yes, you might not be getting physical with them. You may just be getting like emotionally with them. You're still like,
I mean,
there's nothing. Okay, I need to clarify here. There's nothing wrong with going to your ex for like advice, but there's something wrong when you're going, well, Elaine's shit in bed, Cindy, or just telling them stuff that should be told to your partner. That's where the line gets drawn. I'm not saying you should. The minute you break up with your ex, you should message them. You can still message them if you remain friends. The only thing that I'm saying here is in this universe, he can't complain because it'd be like me complaining to Ash if Ash gets a Hey Arnold tattoo and I'm like, Ash, that tattoo sucks. Why would you get a tattoo? It's like, Piggy, look at you. You're a walking brand. So it's like that sense. It's like that in a sense where it's like he can complain about it, but he is also in the wrong. It's kind of the same thing that happens with Kat and Alfie for an extent, where like for years Kat cheated on Alfie. The minute Harvey does it, he's the bad guy, and it's like you're both the bad guy. But enough of that. It's just it's very funny that George is like, how dare you? And it's like, George, you can't speak. I am one of George's biggest fans. I love George Knight, but I just find it so funny how hypocritical he is. Like, just how dare you? Like, I know he never got physical, but like, I don't know if physical is the right word. Like, I've never made it pass for a space from like, you can't talk much, mate. You don't really have a fight in this. You don't really have a leg
I
in
mean,
this fight.
especially obviously, trauma shouldn't define your relationship, but you also do have Elaine with a pretty historical. Yeah, sure. Elaine's husband, Linda's dad. He was with another man and was basically in an emotional affair for years. So, it's obviously it's different from just outright like George has only ever kissed his exes at this point in time, right? So it's not the same as sleeping with a whole other person. But it's just an impasse. It's something that neither are actually going to get beyond because they don't have good enough communication to sort it out. And even if they did, well, George is he's got a pretty strict belief on these sorts of things. So, yeah, unfortunately, this does lead to, Elaine, she does kind of come back like, look, George, you are the big part of my life and I do love you and I do like want you to be a part of it. But, she gets she has found George's like boxing gloves from his first championship fight as a nice like gesture that she was going to give to him before Junior dropped the bombshell. But also, it's not enough for George, and George simply decides it's time to leave. And this is obviously heading up for the Queen Vic being for sale, as we can imagine. So, yeah, it is seemingly curtains for Elaine and George. And George does seemingly just leave the square. I'm sure he will be back You know, it didn't seem like a very permanent exit, but I do feel bad for Elaine, and I fear for the future of Elaine, because now that she's not gonna be like heading up the Vic, which is, once again, you're basically on a pedestal, right? You are interacting with tons of people, and you're there in one of the most like present scenes in the show. So when this happens, and once you no longer like are at front and center, some characters never really recover from it, right? Some characters fall into the background. I mean, take Kat and Alfie from when they were in the Vic in 2012 to when the Carters came in, and then suddenly Kat and Alfie became afterthoughts. Like, it's a big stage to be given, and I'm worried how Elaine will function without being a landlady. Now, I do have a little fan theory that I would love to put forward, which sounds really exciting.
Go
I
ahead.
do love the idea of Elaine and Cindy. Now that George is out the window, now that neither are fighting over George, now that that really big sore point for both people are over, I want I want Elaine and Cindy to somehow reach a weird, really toxic friendship. And I want Elaine and Cindy front in the Albert, and I think that is a match made in heaven, and I think that would be a really good duo.
Yeah.
So that's what I hope Elaine does. As for Linda, Linda's established enough at this point, like she can manage. As for as for the rest of the knights, I would assume they are gone. Well, not gone, but like Gina's setting up a relationship with Harry. Anna, you know, Johnny will stay with Linda wherever they stay, and Tyson, who knows? Who knows? But yeah, it's a lot of them somewhat have upwards mobility, but also it's a weird thing where typically the person makes the role, and it's very hard for the place to make the role. Like, it's hard for most of the best like landladies and landlords of the Vic are very big, bold characters. Angie Watts, Sharon was there for a while. Kat, Pat, Peggy. These are like Frank Butcher, Den Watts. These are really big, Alfie, really big, like loud, bold characters that are really kind of pushed in front of everything in order to make them a very big focal point of the show. So it'll be interesting to see how these characters, now that they are out of the Vic, manage to take this adjustment. But also an interesting way to kind of reinstill a bit of faith in Ben Wadey's direction, as now we will get to see, Kat, a character who's previously been pretty underutilized. This is I haven't made sure that this is spoilers, but spoilers. I know I've spoiled everything so far, but spoilers. It's nice to see Kat, who's been underutilized this entire time, will actually be in a starring role once again.
Yeah. Sorry, I was just biting my nail. I agree with everything you said. I'm not really excited for Kat to run the Vic if she is actually running the Vic. But Anna, George, and Elaine, I've been expecting this for like 2 years now. Well, a year ever since Cindy joined or Ross joined. I've just been expecting this. Because George just can't keep his hands to himself. And also, just with George, I've always will and I always will like George, but I am worried for the next executive producer because, again, to compare it, and I know it's been done to death. We've done it to death. I've done it to death, like a horse, who's been shot to death. But with the new executive producer, they could make him to an extent a villain. We don't know if he will, but it's just that scary thought with him being a new executive producer. So yeah,
I don't know what the future holds for George. I do agree with you, but I think time will tell. I always felt like fleeting with Colin Salmon as a pretty prolific actor in his own right. It just depends. It's basically, if I was the producers, I would write I would write a check for as long as he would stay. You know what I mean? Like, he adds a lot of depth. He's had a lot of big storylines. He's been quite a defining character of this era. So if he is willing to stay, I would absolutely keep him no matter what.
Yeah. And I guess now it is time for the trilogy of this of this. Let me just make a timestamp very quickly. Do 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 do. One way. Plus, I butchered that. Anyways, Kat and Alfie. Now, Calfie or what would be the other one? At I don't really know.
I don't know.
Like, because at doesn't really work because his name's Alfie, so you can't like take out the
I
C.
think it is just Calfee.
But that's what I say, calcium. Which I never have. But
If you say so.
where was I? Yeah, I just lost my train of thought there. Alfie and Kat. Well, Kat is still upset about Alfie buying the blue movie. If you don't know blue movie, it was a word that people will use if they went to Extravision years ago, or I don't know what the equivalent in the UK would have been. Basically a movie shop, where they sell movies, like
Adult video.
well, no, it's not an adult video store. It's where like like where you get the Terminator too, like a Blockbuster or something. Basically,
Yeah,
let's go up to the counter and you would say, "Have you got any blue movies in the back?" Because you don't want to say out loud in case there's a child there. Got any pornos there, lad? I really want to see two girls get railed. You should just put it out there, like you don't want to do that in case there's a fucking child around, or a teenager. And also you'd feel very awkward saying that to the clerk, in my eyes. But yeah, so yeah, Kat's still annoyed with the blue movie, but she never tells Alfie, and she's trying to turn Alfie on, but Alfie's like, no, he's not reciprocating, and she's like, that must be the problem. And I must indicate that apparently this adult movie, it wasn't just your regular normal film. Apparently this
your heart drops. If you searched what it was implied on the hub, you would get a warning. Apparently, this is some like dark. I mean, let's just use some colorful analogy. Tommy and Joel. Joel is someone who doesn't respect women, and we have established this. So therefore, what would someone who views a woman in a very misogynistic way as an object, I just imagine the treatment isn't going to be that great. So the reason why they had to pay is because it is some kind of backdoor, you know, you pay for the more graphic, more extreme kind of violence as such. So it's a weird one with this where obviously Kat says, and this is where, and just to kind of bounce back away from this gently as we kind of reiterate what actually happened though. Kat and Alfie have a big talk, and she's worried that Alfie's not interested in her because of him buying said blue movie. And she's like, she's just believing it all is. She gets some lingerie, she tries to dress up, but then we get this vulnerable scene with Kat and Alfie where they simply go, "Hey, I can't do quickies. I'm not the man I used to be. A lot's changed. It's not like I'm not interested. It's just I need some time to collect the ammo. I need some build up. Foreplay is a real thing that people do. You have to get in the mood. You have to schedule it in."
yeah,
And they kind of take they kind of have a joke about it. They joke about old the Stevie Mitchell hand me down with old Virgil the pump. Pump up the jam. And it's a nice little kind of vulnerable thing, and they kind of get through it. And then Kat mentions, "Oh, and that's why you bought the video." And Alfie's like, "Video? I'm not buying anything, Kat. I've not bought anything. I must be Tommy." Which would be funny if it was an excuse, but it's not an excuse, and it is legit, and the graphic is horrific material. So Kat then gets Alfie to talk to Tommy and have a serious chat about this video because that's, they look at it and they are appalled. They're disgusted because they kind of say graphic, bit hardcore, bit far. And Alfie does it in a very Alfie way where he's basically like, "Hey, Tommy, you know what Frankie says? Relax. I get it. I was your age once. Sometimes you want to see the hubba da bubba, but you can't go that far. We had to do magazines back in the day. You understand? Yeah. You understand?" And then Tommy's like, "Yeah." So Tommy sits with Kat, and Kat kind of said, "Oh, did Alfie talk to you?" And then Tommy's like, "Yeah, kind of, but I have no idea. I have no idea."
But
Mhm.
just to like reiterate my point, though, just it's. I'll obviously talk more about it when we get to Tommy and Joel at the end, but it is like apparent like that Joel is just a guy who doesn't respect women. Like, it's very clear. I should reiterate that. And when we are talking about it, we'll try and be serious, but I will possibly make the Andrew Tate joke because it's right there. You know, it's
No.
it's right there. And I don't really want to call it the influencer because I mispronounce influencer. Like, Ash can probably pronounce it better, but I can't pronounce it. So I'm just gonna call that whoever we'll see at the end. I'm gonna call that guy Andrew Tate or just Tate. But yeah, this video is apparently very rough, and I'm like, yep, good Christ.
I mean, in this conversation with Kat and Tommy, where Kat kind of sits him down and goes, "Hey, I raised you to respect women. That's not on." Because, and obviously it's what we know is all very kind of hush hush and implied because they obviously can't explicitly say what it is. But once again, it's just I'd argue it's probably a bit violent, very degrading, not very respectful, used as an object rather than a person. That's what it's kind of characterized as. And my stomach sank when they kind of explicitly went, "Oh, like it's and it's not necessarily readily. It probably is readily available in the same way, but also to actively purchase this sort of thing is kind of it's crazy." But Tommy makes the stand and goes, "Look, that was just my mates were watching it. Well, it wasn't me." But you can tell that inherently he has a really nice, like, good chat with Kat, and is reminded that he does love his mum, and he is respectful, and he was raised properly. So
Like, fuck, I lost my train of thought. Tommy like writes a speech, and then he goes to Joel. "Oh, Joel, I wrote a speech," and then Joel's bit gay that. And I'm like, okay, Joel, what era are you in 2015? Like, what the fuck?
well, it's still a modern day. It's still said now. Let's be honest. It never really went away. Like it's never really gone away. It's still that kind of toxic masculinity type deal that it's never left. I grew up around it. I grew up seeing a bunch of it and hearing a bunch of it. Like, it's unfortunately still a case of just a very like low brow insult. So
Yeah, and then Tommy's like, okay. And then Joel's like, "Oh, you're writing this shit." And then Tommy's like, "Yeah, I'm dyslexic." And he was like, I know he's supposed to be serious in that scene, but he just came across funny to me. It's like, that's something I would say when Ash like complains that I can't tie my shoelaces and he has to tie it for me.
well, he's just a very well, it's just Tommy, right? Tommy's just a very low confidence kid. He's had a lot of upheaval. He's been a big cause of some of his problems, but he's not a bad kid. He's just prone to kind of making mistakes with it. So that's kind of how, like, he has done some bad things, but you could argue that a lot of it is kind of misguided frustration and not really understanding what the problem is. So
but back to Kat and Alfie. So Kat just going to talk to Alfie, and then I texted Ash last night at 11 p.m. because I watched it last night being Wednesday, the 11th of June, I text Ash going, Haley got mentioned, because Kat just, obviously they skim over it, but she's like, yeah, he did cheat on me with Haley. Yep, that's it. Thank you. Yeah, move on. And so, so Alfie arranges this wedding, fake wedding, and then like he and Kat are like, oh yeah, let's do this, Kat. The limo gets stolen, which I don't know who stole the limo. That I don't know how you could steal a limo in broad daylight, how no one saw it disappear. Just I don't know. Um, do you know?
No, no, I don't think it was mentioned.
Okay. And then he basically gets a bus, but the bus also breaks down, and he goes over the Phil and asks him to fix it. But continuing on, he gets Kat and he's all excited. They're about to get into Billy's van. He drags Kat, goes get in the Queen Vic, and then she goes, "I don't think I can marry you, Alfie." And like everyone's probably heart sank going, "Thank, oh, thank you." As someone is seeing sense in it, and then they went, "Yeah, okay, I'm gonna." And then she talks to like Jean and stuff, and Alfie obviously talks to Phil, and they both come to the sense, "Yeah, okay, maybe he is the man in my moon. Maybe I am the slat in her." Oh no, I couldn't think of one for Cat. Um, but like, yeah, they come out together and they're like, yeah, I love you, and they get fake married. And Tommy like does a speech where he's like, "You're my best dad in the world. You're my favorite. I wish you were my real dad." And then Joel's like, "Get a load of this loser! Way likes his dad. Way fucking loser. Way." All right, Joel, grow up. You're 16, you twat. Um, and then they go back to the house. They go back to the house, and Joel's like, "You gotta watch this video, Tommy." And then obviously there's this influencer, Tate, and he's like, "Well, the thing with women is, you don't need to respect them. They're fucking property. You just, you do what you want with them, then leave them, dump them, do what you want. It's that very much
Yeah, just
masculinity."
simply a lot of very misogynistic attitudes towards women, not respecting them, believing you are superior,
Yeah,
um, believing that they are there to serve you. It just is not very. It's
but
you know it's a joke. It's a joke used by a bunch of the like angry people who hate OnlyFans models, where they call them like fatherless.
yeah,
It's just joking. Call these sorts of grifters motherless because they were clearly not raised with actually respecting women. So
but the problem I have with this Tate influencer is he didn't mention his cars once. It's usually with all these grifters, they're like, "I have a fucking Bugatti outside. You drive a trans van outside, a transit van outside. I have a Bugatti and a Lamborghini, and I fucking shag in this Lamborghini because I have a big cock and all the women love me because I'm fucking massive mojo man." If they didn't mention these car once, you need to mention your car at least once, and then mention how many women you get, because that's how you do it. That's how you have to be a grifter, and then you have to shill the shit online course of how to be a macho man. You have to shill that, and then you show up, you smoke a ciggy, and then he just tells you, "Oh, just don't respect women. There's £1,000 gone. Thank you for paying my course. Fuck you. Bye. I've got your money. See you, you bastard." Because that's how they grift.
and
Sorry.
it's yeah, grifter is the word for it. But yeah, and I think the one thing this one's going to be very hard to watch because obviously t- uh the difference between Tommy and Joel in this situation is Joel has seemingly like been with women or been with like girls his age, which more so means, but Tommy, however, has expresses a bunch of like repressed like kind of feelings and hasn't really isn't really potentially lucky. So is there a chance in this where we now this is speculation once again, good to reiterate with this. Is there a chance we go and make Tommy an incel in this sort of thing? Because, lack of respect towards women, believing you are entitled to, attention and affection. The difference between Joel and Tommy is Joel is kind of history, whereas Tommy isn't. He's not very forward, but going backwards, right? He is. um, struggles to express himself, and could this manifest with an incel storyline?
I don't really know because I'm currently just focusing on this fucking Tate guy that's in the show. Um, it's a fairly weird one to like analyze in a sense because coming from two podcast YouTubers who are nobodies, like giving our thoughts on this storyline, which people might get the wrong way, but it's I'd like to see how they really go about it in a sense. Because you're gonna have Joel, who's like, "This is how you treat women," and you're gonna have Tommy awkwardly just being like, "No," but then Joel's slowly gonna be more like, "Yes," and then he's gonna be like, "Maybe," and that's all I can see. It's gonna be rough. I know it's gonna be rough, and like I said, my end goal is, and I've said this before, he can't do it to someone like Stacey because Stacey legally cannot hit a child, but he has to do it to someone like a Fanny. But I know it's wrong to go, "Oh, just hit them back." What you have to do to someone like a Fanny, where they can turn around and just waft you right in the nut, because that's the way you get a dose of reality check. Is yeah, you may say it all online, but again, like I can bully Ash for like I can just bully Ash if I want. Yeah, sure, but then when I meet him in person, he punches the shit out of me. I've learned not to bully him. Like, you know what I mean? You gotta learn the hard way. It's the sad truth because
Yeah, and I mean, these sorts of kind of see, I'm a bit apprehensive to use the word radicalization, but
but it's
this is what you do when you kind of ideologies are kind of drilled into your brain, and they kind of greatly warp your view on reality, right? It happens with a bunch of different things, none of which I'm going to mention. But in this case, that's why this kind of grift is set afoot, because it's kind of taking impressionable like teenagers in this case, and one teenager who's clearly been in there for a while versus another teenager who doesn't really know how to feel, doesn't really know what to feel about anything, has had a lot of uncertainty, had a lot of upheaval, hasn't really had the kind of the big like father figure to really look up to and kind of learn from, with the amount of uncertainty that Tommy's had in his like childhood and teenage years. So to kind of start, and also because you are angling Tommy as being a kind of unsuspecting, he just wants a friend. Like he was hitting Cat. That is correct and that is true. And he still hasn't necessarily redeemed himself from that, but he has stopped and he's been working a little bit harder to not have these outbursts. Um, he is impressionable. So, and we've seen glimpses of good within Tommy. It's just Joel being this bad influence is seem going to take Tommy down a path that it'd be hard to kind of untravel. Once you're down that road, it's hard to kind of come back and see the light.
they, I, I would say it is radicalizing though in a sense because you are basically I don't want to say brainwashing, but it is essentially
Yeah, it
brainwashing.
definitely is.
It's the only like without using the tape. The only I was gonna say without using the taint, but that's not correct. Without using the taste like influencer, the only way I can describe it is like the West Barrow Baptist Church, where like you obviously have the homophobic parents, but then they immediately the minute the child's out of the womb, they show them like this is the bad stuff in America, the fucking gays, and then it's like yeah, and then they're like they don't want to do it, but they have to do it because the parents have taught them that this is wrong.
Yeah.
And it's sort of sorry, my camera's out of focus. And it's sort of the same way with that because I think who's the guy who does all the documentaries? The fuck's his name? Oh jeez, I forget his
What,
name.
Louis Theroux?
Yeah, Louis Theroux did. He did. I think he did a documentary where he went to the West Barrow Baptist Church, right? And
Yeah.
obviously,
And obviously, if you know the context, the Westboro Baptist Church is like very anti, like gay, very
yeah,
anti-LGBT,
yeah, and because that's probably the better example
like
instead of
aggressively kind of. I'm pretty sure it didn't. I mean, also this could be nonsense, but didn't they basically like weaponize themselves? Like they're trying to teach it as like a very, strict set of beliefs and values.
because
When
as I was gonna say, so obviously Louis Theroux goes to America to see this group, and you have your like teenagers, you have people in their 20s, 30s, 40s. I think you just have this little child holding a sign, and you obviously know this child is taught this, but
Yeah.
he clearly just wants to watch Fireman Sam. Like he doesn't want to be there, but he has to be there because his
Yeah,
mom
like
told him. It's
it's
this.
taught like an ideology,
Yeah,
which is, that's like uh, it's in psychology. There's a thing called informed consent, right? Where you need to fully know what you're in. What like when you start to do a study, you have to get like a good sample size to get like a result that people actually track. Typically in like a good psychological study where you studying the mind and how it works, you need to fully tell. Well, you can go a bit of A, bit of B, but typically you have to get fully informed consent. So you know what you're getting into, what this study is, and what it's about. You can admittedly be quite vague about what the actual outcome is, but you need to have a genuine, like, fairly like bulletproof thing of what you're getting into, because then it means you're going into it with open eyes. But this isn't something you get with these grifters. It's not. It's not a. You get indoctrinated to it. You don't get to sign up. They don't tell you, I'm doing this because this makes good money. You believe they're doing it because they're trying to make your life better. And I've kind of always reiterate this though. The worst bit is it's not that. Now, just wait for this to get clipped out of context. Not every idea they put out there is terrible advice. Now, let me explain. Okay, everybody get a bit
oh,
nervous there. Putting out good things to improve confidence, things to improve how you view yourself, how you portray yourself to other people, stuff about kind of investing in yourself and being the person you want to be isn't an inherently bad idea. It's not a bad way to mold yourself. But the ways that they will kind of get this idea into your head is much like darker. It's instead of it being a you problem, it's a them problem. It's a women problem. It's a other men problem. And it's just a bunch of like old rhetoric which keeps getting spouted. Right?
it
It's like the like alpha thing, right? Where the study that actually expressed the whole thing about like what the wolf pack and being alpha, that study's debunked. It's not a thing. Like it's not a thing. Like it's simply just something that people have taken and now it's been adopted as an ideology. It's not real. Like it's
see.
but people still take it and push it as this big belief as to how you should be successful. It's a ridiculous rhetoric, honestly.
See, the only comparison is like Grifter is like a politician, but with no power. The only power they have
Yeah,
is the fact they sit in front of a microphone like we do, and put it out there. And then, unlike a politician, where politician will, you may know who I'm referencing here, will basically brainwash thousands of his followers. A grifter will only brainwash about 10 of them out of the 10,000 because it's a sad narrative that you watch this and you go, it's basically the immigrant's problem. It's not my fault I can't get a job. It's Dave the immigrant, and it's like no, you can't do that.
and
It's different.
y-
It's not
it's
it's not
it's
because
weaponizing it as
yeah
well.
yeah.
Like it's weaponizing it against other people. It's blaming others for your shortcomings in a lot of these circumstances, right? Um, and that's why we could possibly see like Tommy be an incel in his own right, because if he's kind of embedded in this culture of women are the problem and just the whole like outdated like treat them mean, that sort of like bollocks essentially. Um, maybe he starts to lose accountability for his own actions. Now he'll start blaming others for his failings, blame others for his problems, and it's just yeah, I mean it's an important one as well because it's not a topic it's not really been done super heavily in soap in my opinion. Like we had an incel storyline in Hollyoaks, which was more along the lines of like the femoid like isolation. Uh, it's their fault. I'm like they're like it's the kind of another like belief that people do get kind of thrust into. But yeah, it's just It's going to be a good one to watch, but it is going to be agonizing in its own right, which is what we get with these big important stories, because it's an important tale to tell. It's an important bit of information and things to spread around, because, and by that I mean showing how it can happen, because soaps are inherently good for learning about real life stuff that can happen, because not everybody has a crazy life where they see lots of different things. Some people have a very kind of limited view, and they don't really witness like domestic abuse, or they don't witness um just other social issues. So it can be a really good tool for education and to kind of remind people, like, this isn't okay. And with this in its own right, it can be, perhaps it'll catch some people who may be slipping in towards some of these beliefs about women, and maybe it can prevent them from kind of escalating their behavior further. But yeah, it's a very kind of facepalm approach, because it's like, oh God, no. But still, you have to show and depict it in its own light. So,
Yeah.
like, credit to EastEnders for doing this. I know it's a very serious kind of topic for this still, but it's a serious thing that is happening. So
Yeah, and let's just hope that the Tate in the show is not a human trafficker and doesn't get caught up by my mate Greta Thunberg by using a fucking pizza box. Shout out to Greta, free her, free the homie. Oh, that was my way to get Greta Thunberg freed. But yeah, I just it's just I just hate this kind of like toxic masculinity stuff online. Anyways, I just fucking hate it. Like, people just start arguing to the point of arguments now for no reason online. It's just stupid. Why would you do that? I see Ash. I don't even have to turn the camera. I can see Ash just staring at me, shaking his head. I don't have to turn the camera. Yeah, I turned the camera. He has a shaking grin. I seen it. Um, but um, but yeah, it's just,
how heavily will this podcast be censored?
who knows?
Ah.
Who knows? If I can be arsed. If not, I'll just send it over to Ash and he can do it. Fuck that.
Absolutely not. Your fuck up, mate.
I didn't do any fuck up. What are you on about?
I'm damage controlling for you.
But yeah, I guess that's where we leave that. Um.
In the end, though, Kat and Alfie do actually get married, and I do think we do get the kind of swan song for Chris Clenshaw, where they're both sat in the double decker bus, just like, basically a kind of reiteration, just, yeah, it's been a mad couple of years, hasn't it? And then they kind of have a snuggle, Kat and Alfie back on top at the very end, and this is the end as far as we know. I honestly, at this point, wouldn't be surprised if wouldn't be surprised if they just, I don't know, maybe Chris Crenshaw somehow stays for another week. It feels like it's been his last week for like the last 4 weeks. But yeah, this should be the end of Chris Crenshaw, his time on the show. Obviously, we've done 2 pretty active videos discussing the shortfalls and the victories of it. So if you do want to watch those, it's on the channel. Go find it. But fundamentally, this week was a frustrating one, in my opinion, because we were circling back around on some of the issues that have never really been fixed. And we may now have somewhat of a conclusion to it, but ultimately getting here has been like pulling teeth. It's just, they're having troubles again. Like, but the main issue with having the relationship problems is because we're not really seeing the happy side of the relationship, nobody's really upset when it's going bad. Because we don't really have that much of a vested interest in the relationship, like whether it lives or dies. We're not that bothered, because the last time we saw George and Elaine, it was them having more problems because George was doing the same shit over again. So we're not necessarily as invested as I'd imagine Chris Crenshaw imagines we are.
yeah,
Like, you have to build to this stuff to make it engaging. But if you just let it sit, well, unsurprisingly, some people will just tap out and be very uninterested. So
And without further ado, it is time for the awards. Are you excited? Will you go through the awards?
Very excited.
Go through the
Not
awards.
stern.
Go through the awards.
So we have
please.
4 awards. We have the Underrated Award, for obvious reasons. We have Who Needs Slapping Down. We have the Chris Clenshaw Award for kind of most promising idea, direction, something like that, They're very loose. And the Keanu Taylor Award of Excellence for the most wooden. So which one do you want to start with?
Chris Clenshaw era. Chris Clenshaw award.
Um, no, I said it last time that it's over soon. I'm going to say the Tommy and Joel storyline.
Yep.
I think that still has the makings of something that could be really good. It feels like no, this could be nonsense, but it feels like a lot of when other soaps are typically trying to win awards, they typically go for the social issues, right? Like Hollyoaks won best storyline with the Frankie and JJ sibling sexual abuse storyline. That was a big social issue that was done, and it won awards. It felt like EastEnders typically took the approach a bit away from the social issues here. So showing the kind of male grifter, toxic masculinity attitudes towards women kind of social issue, I think it has a lot of potential to be a really big one. So it'll be harder to watch, it'll be agonizing, but that just shows that it should theoretically be done well.
And I agree. I have to go for the Tommy and Joel award. I look forward to see where it goes, and we will continue to bring up male grifters as long as the story goes. Obviously, I'll just be registering them as Tate or Taint, depending if I pronounce.
You call it taint, don't really want to be platforming that piece of shit.
Yeah. True. But do you have a Bugatti? That's the question. Okay. Thank you. Continuing on. What other awards do we have? Who needs? No, we're not gonna do who's stepping now. Underrated.
Tommy's speech at the wedding was actually quite a nice, triumphant speech after a lot of strife with Kat and Alfie. All in all, it was nice to see Tommy actually appreciate his parents for who they are. So that was a very touching speech.
And I'm going for Big Moz with the priest. That was my favorite.
Yes.
So there's 2 more awards. What's the other award I'm forgetting?
Keanu Taylor.
No. We have the most wooden. Give me that.
Oh yeah. Did we?
Before.
I don't think so.
Before the Chris Crenshaw award, Who Needs Slapping Down, underrated, and most wooden.
Yeah, the Keanu Taylor.
So, who needs slapping down?
Joel. Joel.
They're going to say me.
Maybe it's not. Maybe Joel isn't the problem, but as the spoilers imply, it's gonna get worse. So
yeah, and I'll go for Taint, Mr. Andrew Taint.
Yeah, and the fact that there are people intentionally pushing this content out on impressionable people.
Yeah.
Horrendous.
The other one, and side note, the other one I can think of is that one influencer who needs a carer, but obviously he made the guy who makes the carer who looks after him knows the content would work if he just makes the friend drunk. I've probably butchered how that came across, but it was something along those lines where this guy would just absolutely drink himself to death, and just wake up and start fights in LA and stuff, and it was just weird. I'm like, why? Well, look after him, mate. And now the Keanu Taylor Award of Excellence.
Most wooden, all of the things that broke or got stolen, the bus, faulty mechanics.
A filled throw with the toolbox at the end. It goes back to Alfie. Just love it. And that's the awards. Now, is there an after show? Or are we ending it there?
We can talk a little bit. We can talk a little bit of stuff.
Okay, can start off there, mate.
This week I've been wearing many hats this week. just to kind of dissuade from the very serious tone of this podcast, just add a bit of levity to it. This week I've been playing a speed running tournament. I play Simpsons Hit and Run, which you probably played as a kid. It was Simpsons, but GTA. I signed up to do a big tournament in the main category in the speed run, and it was a fun week, honestly. I had to do 4 races against someone live. Managed to get pulled in a group with an American and an Australian, so time zones were a bit of a nightmare. And it's like the American's like, I am free at 2 a.m. 1 in the morning, 11:30. I'm like, 11:30, 11:30, lock it in. But honestly, as someone who, I'm unsurprisingly quite introverted. Who knew? Who knew? Do like to do things on my own terms. So actually, kind of in the build up to a lot of these races, bit of anxiety going through, but like towards the end, honestly, is quite fun and very enjoyable. And I went 1 and 3, so wasn't the best showing, but it was quite fun. And otherwise, it's a community organized like tournament as well, so. There's actual setup with like someone who's like producing the stream and someone who's like, and then you get 2 commentators and then they commentate over the race. I've been doing that as well, so it's been a busy old time. Being a part of a fun little community, it's been good fun. Not what I expected. I did one in 2019, and this is my first one since then. So yeah, it's been good fun.
And my legal case that I've been putting forward for Ash is Ash didn't lose the races. He only lost the races because there was a time zone difference. That is the problem.
Exactly.
So he didn't actually lose. He just was very tired, so he lost that way. But yeah, I tuned into one stream and I'm not doing this again. Just seeing you absolutely get bodied, and I was like, oh my god! It's like watching bloody Deji in boxing. Jesus. I
managed to burn out like 2 weeks before the tournament started as well. So, was it my finest hour? Absolutely not. But did we still get through it anyways? Yes.
I'm just laughing at the fact that I compared you to Deji, so got away with it. But it's fun you're doing that, Ash. Honestly, like it sounds sarcastic, but I'm honestly glad you are in the Simpsons community again, because you are pretty much a hermit for like the past 5 years. Bloody hell, there's something
for a while. It was just like, I will do streams on my own channel. Leave me the fuck alone. Don't talk to me. So yeah, no, it took me out of my comfort zone a little bit as well. But honestly, it's been, and I've been hanging around it a bit more. Been talking to a bunch of different people I don't usually like. It's been really fun. It's very. Yeah, it's been a long time since the community was obviously I was fairly like introverted in its own right. Won't really be talking to a lot of people, but there have been times in the past where it's a fairly sizable community for what it is. So, but like at this point in time, and for the last like good chunk of time, it's been a lot more welcoming than it used to be. So it's been really fun to actually start to kind of put the barriers down and just kind of enjoy being around. So yeah, it's it definitely took me out of my comfort zone there. So definitely a necessary thing. I'm thankful and happy that I did it.
I'm grateful you did it as well, Ash. I haven't been up to much, honestly. I got a new shirt and stuff, so that's pretty much my week.
Tats?
Yeah, I got new tats, as I said earlier on. You can have a look.
That's the Blink 182.
Yeah,
That's their logo. Is it an album cover?
It's from, in my opinion, one of the greatest albums. It's regarded as one of the greatest albums. It's the untitled album. It's the one or self-titled. The one where I Miss You comes from. That one guy did a Johnny Cash cover of it, like a kind of Johnny Cash cover. It also has like Feeling This on it, and Anastasia, and Always. Like it's generally a banger album, even if you can get past the whiny punk voice. It just slaps. And then this one is I don't know how to really show it. This one is the Boxcar Racer one. It's arguably the backstory behind Boxcar Racer is a weird one. I don't know much about it, but from what I can gather, is Tom DeLonge and Mark Hoppus had a disagreement, from what I remember. Basically, because Mark wanted to keep like Blink as more of, you know, oh, we're the whiny guys, we oh, we can't date women because we have small dicks, and Tom was like, I want it to be kind of serious, so he went and did a side project called Boxcar Racer, which honestly is just an emo album, and it's fucking fantastic, and probably his best work. And then they rejoin, and then that's where Untitled comes from, because they went, okay, so it's kind of a sequel.
I will make the joke that obviously 3 of your tattoos are all related to Tom DeLonge
Yeah,
bands. So
yeah. Yeah, I know. I'm not really. I don't know if you could tell, Ash, but I'm not really a fan. Not really. Not really a fan. I can't really tell that.
yeah.
And then obviously, oh fucking hell,
The yeah.
there's Winnie the Pooh and Tigger.
Yeah.
Winnie has no legs, so it just looks like he has a long leg. Just my finger. And then Tigger looks like he has a penis. Like fucking.
He is slinging tail.
And then this is me. Ooh.
It's the on the wrist. It's what the Green Day hand grenade
It's the Green Day
from what American Idiot.
Yeah.
Like the album.
Yeah, which is another fantastic album, honestly. If you don't know, American Idiot at that time was coinciding with George Bush's America, about how shit it was.
Yeah.
And
especially after a couple of years of Nickelback hogging all the spot. It's a very people hate it, but people also love it even more. So.
And the best thing I love about American Idiot is how Americans take it out of context, because obviously it criticizes the current president at the time, George W. Bush. But with that album, it ages like fine wine. Because literally, probably except Obama's America, it pretty much like just becomes truer and truer for each president, and it's just like it ages. And then you have obviously the Red Wing Americans who are like, this Blue the Greatest album, depicting the blue, and it's like, no, you've completely misunderstand it. It's making fun of you. You're not like, they're not laughing with you, they're laughing at you, and I just love it. It's Green Day, but Green Day is a very weird band in my eyes, because they had a few good albums, but currently all the songs is just, oh, I hate the government are bad, oh, I hate the government, I drink sometimes too, and I'm like, okay, yeah. I kind of stopped in the 2010s of Green Day, but like, yeah, that one on 21st Century Breakdown is fantastic. It's another album I love. That's where Know Your Enemy comes from. It's from 21st Century Breakdown. I've also been listening to the Wonder Years, and I've been getting through their album. I forget what it's called, and I've gone up to a song called Wyatt's song, Your Name, and I've just been sat I was playing my colouring game at 4 a.m. waiting for the EastEnders episode to release, and the fucking Wyatt song is playing, and I'm starting to cry because I'm like, oh no, because I don't know why I love the sad songs. I just do.
Yeah, he just loves the sad songs. The amount of times it's like, oh, I love this album, love this sad song. I nearly cried. It's like, God, mate. As Joel would say, that's gay, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pussy. No.
But yeah, like I like it's like, yeah. I need to finish listening to that album. I think it's called the Decay Part 3, I think. And basically the band, like, lead singer writes a song singing about like mental illness, is like loss, and just politics. It's like, yeah, it's a very sad band. Then my Empty Parking Lot, I think they're called, are releasing another album, and I'm excited for that as well. They're a Midwest emo band. I like.
Of course.
Piggy, is any of your bands not sad?
Are all your bands not whiny and sad? Question mark. No, but look, we all have different music taste.
My favorite story I have with the Midwest emo, it's just Ash randomly messaged me at 11 p.m. one night going, "Do you have any Midwest emo songs you recommend?" And I just send him a full list, and he's just sat there like, I did ask for this.
And then I just went. I just went to Doomer anthems, anyways. Look, we all go there. We all get in that place sometimes.
I love how my emo is is Midwest. Like, my emo is emo music, and your emo is just like lost Christmas.
Doomer, reverb, slowed down. I don't know. Yeah, it's just weird, different ways of processing things, apparently.
And I've
Uh,
also, oh, sorry,
It's good fun. It's good fun.
I've also gotten into Weezer, not Weezer. I was gonna say Weezer. Wheatus. I've listened to all their albums now. Um,
Nice.
yeah, the song that I wrote when you dissed me is a fantastic one. Teenage Starfacts, obviously iconic. Then you have Leroy. I love him, even though I'm not an American. I love this song, "An American in Amsterdam," just because of the chorus. I'm an American in Amsterdam. Don't know why I like it, but yeah, that's pretty much what I've been doing. And also, I don't know if I showed this, but it's been little photo. Look at him.
Yeah, you didn't show the full guy.
Look at him. He looks. Ooh.
It's a good depiction of it, honestly. Like usually usually when Piggy gets tattoos, he gets two perspectives. He gets his dad, who's like, "Oh, yeah, great tattoos, son. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love that." Then you have me, where it's like, "That's fucking shit. That's fucking shit. Why'd you waste money on that piece of shit?" But I don't mind you. I don't mind these new tattoos.
Yeah. It's just funny because we were talking off camera, like before we recorded, that I've got like the fucking band tattoo small, but the Spoiling Friends tattoos they're huge. Because for context, I'm gonna
Like,
give
yeah.
I was I wasn't drunk, but I remember one night going, if I ever wanted to become a wrestler or wanted to do something, I want to have tattoos that parody CM Punk, who's another famous wrestler. And his joke, his ones that he has Princess Leia on his like right thigh and Luke Skywalker on his left. And I went, I want to do a parody of that. So I just went, I got Smaller Friends. And then I went to Ash and Ash went, don't do it, mate. And then at 6 minutes down the road, I'm looking at these and I'm like, sure, I've got these? No. But is it funny to look at? There's a yellow guy on my thigh that looks at me when I piss. Yes, it is.
If they were much smaller, I wouldn't mind, but they are fucking massive.
He has seen them in person as well. That's the
Like
problem.
they take up like a good this amount of thigh. It's mental.
Yeah. Just like because he's obviously seen them in person and he's seen the pink shorts as well as Ash, and those pink shorts will never leave his brain, sadly. Um. So yeah, they're fucking they're about that big as he said.
Yeah.
But like I love this tattoo. It's technically can also be depicted as a trans tattoo because the color is pink and blue. So yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
true. Also, will say, in case people do watch the podcast and they remember that time I said I was gonna shave when I got that video done. Not got the video done. I just want to shave.
Yeah.
It's nice to see fresh babyface me back again. The facial hair is not. It's not a look. It's not a look on me, unfortunately.
Not even a look on me. I just have it because I'm lazy.
Yeah.
I keep the mustache, but like I do shave, but I shave it regularly. What happens more? Do I shave or have showers? Who knows? You'll never know. Um, that's
Burying yourself.
yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, I suppose all that said, though, I think we, after quite a serious tone podcast, we did manage to rein it back in with the after show. Some fun stories of tattoos and music and stupid children's video game tournaments. It's been a good week though. All in all though, to the Chris Crenshaw era, I do salute it. I do, and have maintained that as much as it may have had its problems, like all executive producers do, I still do appreciate what they did to bring back EastEnders to be my favourite soap. So, it may have been since the 40th anniversary. These last 4 months essentially have pretty much been in limbo. I wouldn't argue the best work has been achieved since the 40th anniversary, but you obviously have to have the lows after the peaks, as it would be extremely hard to endure that level of ambition with a soap all year round. So, may have had some issues, but all in all, still a very big fan of what they aim to bring to this era of EastEnders. And, good luck to Ben Wadey. I look forward to seeing what his new episodes are and what direction he takes the show. Had a lot of very interesting returns on the cards and probably a bit of a reshuffle because there are characters who admittedly do probably need to go. But all in all, it's been a good one.
And yeah, I want to say thank you, Chris Crenshaw, for the memories you gave us for the last 2 years. If I was a highly paid editor, which I'm not, and that's just me not getting it highly edited, um, I would put Fuel Leave the Memories Alone for Chris Clancy, or give him the 10 seconds of Julius theme, but I don't think neither of us want to do that, so we're not going to do it. Unless Ash adds the 10 seconds of Julius theme at the end where he just sends it to me, then we'll think about it. But without further ado, that's the end of the podcast. We hope you had a good one. We will see you next time. Bye bye. Bye bye.